Hello, everybody, and welcome to 38 Weeks to Go, your weekly podcast about fantasy football. I am your host, Nash, and let's get into it. First of all, it just seems like the title race is wide open. Now that Manchester City were held, their next two games in hand are vital and they're not going to be easy. But I am getting ahead of myself. Gameweek 35 is done with an average of 50. How did you do? Let me start by saying I got 58, which is above average, but it's not anything to write home about. The thing that hurts me the most is I wasn't sure that Okafor would play. I saw the list and he seemed doubtful, and I was like, do I want to lose points to get him in? So I brought in Cherki instead because I was done with Rice, and I regret not bringing in Okafor. Hurts me still. So I know a few of you might have been caught out because the game week started on Friday. And so it was very early for me on Friday when I discovered that Okafor was playing and I wouldn't be benefiting from his points, and that made me bitter. The thing that hurt me the most this week was rotations. The main reason I didn't bring in Crystal Palace players in spite of the double game week was because I believed they would rotate, and they did. Aston Villa rotated, so that hurt me. Nottingham Forest rotated. That hurt me as well. And I'm sure there are plenty of you who were hurt by the rotations. Chelsea didn't rotate much, but got hammered. It was such an embarrassing show. I expected a clean sheet from Sunderland, but they got a red card way too early. Ballard pulled his opponent's hair and he had to go. And from then on, it was just a matter of time. So, when looking at the high-scoring game this week, it is Everton versus Manchester City, 3-3. This was a game this weekend saw a lot of errors. And one of the notable errors, well, I'll get to that in the next game. Okay, 3-3. I don't know what Gay was doing, but Gay did not play well in this game. Might have been his worst game in a City shirt. And on the other end, maybe Doku's best in a long time. His goals were great. Manchester City stole a draw from the jaws of defeat. It was 3-1. Gay had given away the ball, then they scored a good corner, and then there was another error which led to the goal for Barry. Oh, it was such a disaster for Manchester City. Of course, if you're an Arsenal fan, you loved this. Doku scored. Okay, so it went 3-1. So Doku scored the opening goal, which was a beautiful goal, and it looked like it was going to be 1-0 until Gay decided to just help his fellow, or rather his former London, rival. Now, after that, Barry scored, O'Brien scored, Barry scored again, and then Haaland scored a chip goal. Doku scored a beautiful curling effort. His goals were really splendid. If you haven't seen them, they're definitely up there in terms of goal of the week, because you have Doku's goals, and then you have Stark's goal. João Pedro scored a great goal, and then Brighton scored a beautiful team goal. It's hard for me to actually choose what was the goal of the week this time around. Everton did well to take the lead. They just cracked. Gunnar and Roll had the assists for Everton. And you're noticing one is missing? It's because Gay literally gave the ball to Barry to score. Honestly, it looked like rigging. Anyway, Gay had an assist. Sheki and Kovacic had a beautiful through ball for Haaland's goal. Beautiful. Just perfect. Doku with his heroics deserved the 3 points. Barry got 2 and Haaland got 1. And that's fair to me. When it comes to the marquee game, Manchester United 3, Liverpool 2. The thing that stood out to me in this game the most was how unreliable Manchester United are at the back. If it was Onana who made the mistake that Lamens made, we would not have heard the end of it. Oh, some double standards. It's because that was very Onana-esque. He literally passed the ball to the opponent, and then the opponent scored. It was worse than Gay's goal, and Gay gave a through pass. Both of Liverpool's goals were definitely preventable. The first one, maybe Szoboszlai made a good run, but it was off a stray pass again. Manchester United were the architects of the goals they conceded. It wasn't some brilliant Liverpool football, but also Liverpool had to finish, and they made it a game because Cunha scored, Sesko scored, great efforts, and it looked like this game was going to be a walkover. Bruno missed a good chance. And then out of nothing, Szoboszlai has a great run and finishes calmly. And then Gakpo capitalizes off Lamin's mistake and scores. And then Kobbie Mainoo comes in to save the day. And he has really hidden what would have been a very disappointing draw. And this game made Mainoo leapfrog Liverpool. So it was a very vital game. So Manchester United is now third in the table. Goodness, it makes you wonder what Ruben Amorim was doing, because Carrick seems to have solved the Manchester United problem. Although I do believe that Amorim did well in that he got rid of players and got rid of the toxic energy. But I honestly didn't expect Carrick to do so well. He has to get the job. Anyway, Bruno had the assist for the goal for Manchester United, for one of the goals. And Szoboszlai had an assist. Szoboszlai had 3 bonus points. Mainoo had 2 and Bruno had 1. The most disappointing match of the game week belongs to Chelsea 1, Nottingham Forest 3. Mainly because, honestly, Chelsea, they're playing like Tottenham. It looks like they're in relegation form right now. I don't know what they need. And the worst part about it is that Maresca is tied to taking over the Manchester City job. Chelsea had a good manager. They just didn't back him. I hope this causes the management to alter their thinking, because they're turning into a selling club, Monaco, Ajax-esque. And this is not looking good for the club. They're unable to challenge. They're too inexperienced. They've got no mature heads in there, and they can't play. This game that they lost, it was so easy. You'd think Nottingham Forest were number 4 in the table. Oh, Chelsea were a disaster. Awoniyi scored in, I think, the first minute. Also, the funniest thing about this game is that it was played at 5 p.m. yesterday. And I'm like, 5 p.m., why is it being played so early? Was it like a bank holiday in England? It was such a random time. Anyway, he scores, and then the penalty is given. Igor Jesus scores, and then Chelsea get a penalty. Our friend Cold Palmer is cold and doesn't score. No. It is saved. I don't like it when people take credit away from the keeper. The keeper saved the penalty. Palmer did not miss. It was saved. It was both missed and I guess he saved, but credit goes to the keeper for going in the right direction and saving. Palmer has been horrible this season, and I think they need Pochettino back. I think they're going to hope for maybe USC to fire him and poach him back, because that's the only way we're getting that Palmer that we all have in our heads. In the past years, I've been talking about a Haaland dependency problem, and we have a variation. A bunch of us have that problem with Palmer, where we think he's better than he is, but he isn't anymore, and we have failed to adjust to who he is currently. João Pedro scored a great overhead kick. It was off across from Cucurella. Morgan Gibbs-White came on. I didn't want him to come on because I had Hale on the bench who had 10 points. And now this manager is going to regret it, because he had no business bringing on Gibbs-White. This game was over. Chelsea were doing nothing. He brings in Morgan Gibbs-White. Morgan Gibbs-White thankfully has an assist for the goal, and then he gets injured. So now I have to think about removing Morgan Gibbs-White. Such a mess. Poor management. Why bring on players when your team is already winning? Anyway, Bakwa had the assist for Awoniyi's first goal, and then Awoniyi was brought down for Jesus, and then Gibbs-White had the assist for Awoniyi. I really like that Awoniyi is finding his shooting boots. I don't know what this means for Woods, but it's good when they have all their strikers on form. Jesus, Wood, Awoniyi. It's good for the club. It means there's a path to recovery and to having a better season next year. Awoniyi had the 3 bonus points, João Pedro had 2, and Bakwa had 1. There were 3 clean sheets this week, which means that defense may not be as powerful as it has been this season. Even though for me, this is the best defensive season we've had. So many top performers have been defenders, and that's quite impressive. So, starting in goal, Kelleher and Sells had 8. Raya had 6. Petrovic had 6. And then Leno, Pope, Roofs had 3. So as you can see, defenders not so good. But wait. Senesi, 14 points. Lewis Potter, 11. Mukiele, 11. Hill, 10. Bueno, 10. And those are the top 5 defenders. When it comes to midfielders, Doku leads all midfielders with 15 points. Szoboszlai 13. Saka and Damsgaard 11. Stark and Okafor 10. When it comes to forwards, Gyokeres and Awoniyi are the top performers this week with 16 points apiece. Barry has 11. Osula and Richarlison have 9. Let's look at some stats generated from the game week. Everton are the first team in Premier League history to concede a result-altering goal in the 90th minute or later in 3 consecutive matches. And what are those results exactly? Doku got the equalizer in the 90-plus something minute. They lost to West Ham in the 90-plus minute. They lost to Liverpool in the 90-plus minute. Heartbreak. A start that may surprise you considering their position. Manchester City have dropped the most, or rather the joint most points from winning positions in the Premier League since the turn of the year. 12, level with Tottenham and Newcastle. Isn't that something? It just shows you that it's Arsenal who have fumbled this Premier League rather than Manchester City being amazing, because they haven't been amazing. Manchester City avoided defeat in a Premier League game despite trailing by 2 or more goals as late as the 82nd minute for the first time since March 2012 when they drew with Sunderland 3-3. Doku's equalizer came in the 96th 0.49th minute, which puts it as Manchester City's third latest goal on record since 06-07 in the Premier League, after John Stones' strike against Arsenal, which was 97-14, and Gabriel Jesus' goal against Everton, which was 96-52. So it seems like Everton are not a stranger to late game drama. Ryan Cherki is the first Premier League player to reach 10 open play assists in their debut season in the competition since Eden Hazard. Very impressive. Pep Guardiola is unbeaten in his 15 previous Premier League meetings with David Moyes. He has won 13, drawn 2. Only Guardiola against Sean Dyche and Alex Ferguson against Steve Bruce has a manager faced someone more times without losing, and both of those times were 17 matches. When Manchester United defeated Liverpool, it was their first league double over Liverpool since 2015-16. Aston Villa have lost 4 of their last 8 home games in the Premier League, where they've won 3, drawn 1, lost 4, and only 1 fewer than they did across the previous 55 games at Villa Park combined, where they had a record of 38 wins, 12 draws and 5 losses. So something is definitely wrong, and for me it's just a question of reinforcements. They need to figure out the money and then figure out players or loans like they did last season with Rashford and Asensio. I wonder what happened to Asensio. I haven't seen him this season. Tottenham have won consecutive Premier League matches for the first time since the opening 2 games of the season. De Zerbi's magic is starting to work. Richarlison has now scored 10 or more goals in 5 different Premier League seasons, and it is a joint most of any Brazilian player, along with Roberto Firmino. Bruno Fernandes has created 5 or more chances in 14 different Premier League games in 25-26. On record since 03-04, only Mesut Ozil has done so more often in a season, with 15 times in 15-16. Bruno Fernandes has created 120 chances in the Premier League this season, the most by a Manchester United player in a season on record since 03-04. The previous most was 119 by Fernandes in 22-23. Clearly, he's the one who will make things happen. Michael Carrick is only the 6th manager and first English manager to win 8 of his opening 9 home games in the Premier League, and the first since Antonio Conte did it in 16-17, who also won 8 out of 9. Only 3 players have both scored and assisted 10 goals. These players are Szoboszlai, who has 13 goals, 10 assists, Cherki, who has 10 goals, 14 assists, and Bowen, who has 10 goals, 11 assists. If West Ham go down, you know Bowen is going. Since Amorim got sacked, no player has scored more Premier League goals than Benjamin Sesko, who has scored 9. And that's why I was saying, with new managers, you never know who's the player that's going to start shining. Because remember when Amorim came, it was Ahmad. And now we can't find Ahmad. Where's Ahmad? Where's Waldo? Liverpool have now conceded 17 goals from set-piece situations, excluding penalties, in the Premier League this season. It is now their most ever in a single campaign, overtaking 16, which was in 92-93. So Slot has some big problems, and honestly, he just needs to fix the defense. Junior Krupi has equaled the record for most Premier League goals by a teenager in their debut season, along with Ruby Faula, who did it in 93-94, and Robbie Keane, who did it in 99-00 Y2K. And that number is 12. So if he scores more, he'll be out and out the best teenage striker. That's quite something. Maybe I should bring him into my team. With Leeds' victory over Burnley, they have secured 43 points. And no team that has secured 43 points has ever been relegated. So it's safe to say that they are safe. Speaking of Leeds, they have scored 3 or more goals in 8 different Premier League matches this season. Only Manchester City with 12 and Brentford with 9 have had more than them. I'm really happy. There was a period of time when Verka changed his approach to the game and you could see Leeds just transformed. And I'm glad they stuck with that. Arsenal have never lost in 32 home league games against Fulham. They've won 25 and drawn 7. And it is the most any side has faced another without defeat in the Premier League. They had no hope. And if you watch that game, Fulham, it's like they didn't know that there was a match that day. They were embarrassing. They made Arsenal look like prime Barcelona. Not because Arsenal weren't good, but because Fulham were bad. They needed halftime. I've never seen a team need halftime more than them because they needed to regroup. They were just, it was a tough game to watch. Jared Bowen had 26 points in his previous 3 outings. And then 220,000 people choose him. And then he gets 2 in Gameweek 35. Heartbreak. Anton Stark currently has 132 points. It is the most of any midfielder making their FPL debut this season. Well done. In his last 3 appearances, Okafor has had 15, 14 and 10. I'm so bitter. When it comes to DEFCON points, Devaney had the most along with Casemiro with 18 points. Hill, who was on the bench, had 15, along with Ekdal and Botman. And those are the top 6 midfielders. I mean, DEFCON getters this week. Haaland was the most selected player. He was also the most captained player. The most vice-captained was Bruno Fernandes. The most brought-in player is Shirky with 192,000 people bringing him in. Haaland has been brought in by 160,000. Gyokeres by 151,000. O'Reilly by 110,000. Sarr by 97,000. So you can tell that people are gearing towards the double game week. Top transfers out: Thiago 136,000, João Pedro 131,000, Bowen 117,000, Semenyo 93,000, Timber 89,000. Like I said a little earlier, the average of the game week was 50. If you got 50 or more, well done. The top performer this week got 129 points. Makes me feel like I did nothing. So, they used their triple captain, and boy did they use it well. Shumba Stars FC. In goal they had Raya, who had 6 points. Lewis Potter 11. Mukiele 11. Senesi 14. Okafor 10. Bruno Fernandes 5. Soboslai 13. Shada 1. Rodgers 3. Shada 3. Rodgers 1. Haaland 7. Triple captain Gyokeres 48 points. That is a haul. Congratulations to Shumba Stars. You did well. Our weekly leader this week is none other than Aboki Jr., manager of Ahman Jr. They got 94 points. In goal they had Petrovic 6, Chalobah 1, Gabriel 6, Senesi 14, Soboslai 13, Mbeumo 2, Fernandes 5, Gibbs White 4, Saka 11, Captain Gyokeres, 32. Ekitike, 0. So imagine 94 points and at least one sub, just that his bench didn't play. And it also goes to show that they had selected a really strong team to begin with. Interesting. Number 2 was John Mongemi, Bowley's Billionaires, and they got 91 points. Melvin Asakanya got 82 points. Dennis Alubiri and Anthony Euler round up the top 5 with 81 points apiece. On the other end, we have Tatiana Mislenovic, who is bottom with 24 points. In goal, they have Pickford, 1, Ayo, 1, Pedro Porro, 4, Gyokeres, 1, De Kuiper, 1, Cunha, 7, Palmer, 0, Diaye, 2, Captain Wood, 2, Sesko, 5, Ekitike, 0. Rashok Ngailo also got 24 points. In goal, they had Leno, 3, Collins, 6, Munoz, 0, Milenkovic, 1, Mitoma, 1, Semenyo, 2, Elanga, 0, Gibbs, 4, Bowen, 1, Captain Raul, 4, Mateta, 1. And this just goes to show you that there are many ways to skin a cat. Third from bottom is Nikola Mislenovic with 26. Clinton Oko and Emmanuel Ogbogu are tied for fourth and fifth really, with 27 points. Most points on the bench is a tie, with Alexander Mutune having 29 points on the bench. Barry, 11. Senesi, 14. Anderson, 3. Sanchez, 1. Edwin Joroge also has 29 points on the bench. Darlow, 2. Mukiele, 11. Senesi, 14. Raul, 2. And just like the other one, there are many ways to skin a cat. Davis Otara had 28 points. Brian Murillo had 26 points on the bench along with Black Adam. There are many ties this week. The team with the most goal scorers is a 5-way tie with Matthew Jr., Aaron Mwindi, Christy Cardavillis, Reeve Masime, Anthony Quella, each having 5 goal scorers apiece. The team with the best midfield this week belongs to Sachevini, whose team delivered 38 points. When it comes to defense, John Mongemi had a defense that resulted in 44 points. That's impressive. I got 56. Wow. No wonder they finished with over 90. When it comes to transfers made, Amos Mwangi and Loki made the most transfers this week with 5. And of course, remember there's a double game week, then the blank. So yeah, catching up makes sense. Now, when it comes to the best transfer outcome, Tagana Gatheru gained 24 points by the changes made. Sachivini, 19, along with Reeve Masime. And then 4th and 5th is King Kev and Mark Lukwago, who are tied for 17. So if you're paying attention, you can see there's so many ties this week. On the opposite, Alan Muchangi was 22 points worse off for making the transfer decisions they made. Martin Asewe and Franklin Asiema tied with negative 14. Stan Midea, negative 13. Hilary Malik and Papichulo, negative 10. Collins Kogi is number 1 for team's highest value with 106.6. Angulanayo Kijani Mama is on the opposite end of that scale with a team value of 96.4. Wilson Deng has added 0.9 to the bank, so their team has increased in value. Alan Muchangi is on the opposite end, and their team has dropped value by 1 million. So obviously, that means they've used their wild card. Now, when it comes to the best differential pick, this week it was Awoniyi, chosen by only 2 managers, and he delivered 16 points. Gyokeres, chosen by 6% of us, delivered 16 points as well. Doku, literally chosen by 2 of us again, delivered 15 points. So imagine having Doku and Awoniyi, he just rose up our table. And then in 4th place was Senesi, chosen by 25% of us. So that's a bunch of us. Now, when it comes to the 5th, it is none other than Soboslai, who gave us 13 points and was chosen by 10% of us. With 94 points, Aboki Jr. has jumped the most globally with him jumping 847,000 positions. Emmanuel Ogbogu has dropped 572,000 positions. Streak of green arrows. Haj Luvumbi, 11th straight week in a row. Talk about finishing strong. Haider Yassin and Murunga Manyara are on the opposite end of that, having done nothing for 11 weeks in a row. Not a way to finish. Now, when it comes to our league, Melvin Asakania jumped 22 positions. Well done. Suraj Baigane dropped 15 positions in our league table. Haaland was the most popular captain choice in our group, chosen by 77 managers. Bruno Fernandes was captained by 33. Thiago was captained by 12. Semenyo captained by 9. Sheki captained by 7. João Pedro captained by 7. Watkins captained by 5. Calvert-Lewin captained by 4. Gyokeres captained by 4. You guys are the real MVPs and probably dead teams. Ekitike captained by 4. Owen another 4. Palmer, oh my goodness, 0 times 2 is still 0. Captained by 4. Saka was also a good captain choice. Captained by 4. Salah captained by 3. Wood captained by 2. Gibbs White by another 2. Voltemada, Hudson-Odoi, Isak, Grealish, Foden, Gakpo, Van Dijk, Raul, Eze, Mbeumo, Rupi Jr., Evan Nilsson, Rodgers, Rice, and Gabriel, captained by one manager apiece. When it comes to our league table, there is a bit of ruffling of feathers in that we have a new number 2. So number 1 is Anil Midunga. He got 56 points, and he's at 22.19. Now number 2 is John Wangemi, who got 91 points, which brings him up to 21.61, and he's closed the gap considerably. But having said that, it's still roughly 60 points. So number 1, Anil Midunga, is still ahead. Number 3 is Franklin Asiema with 21.58. Leon Mortier, number 4 with 21.45. Number 5 is Papichulo, 21.27. Number 6 is 21.25. And if you remember last week, there were only 5 people who I was saying are roughly 100 points, are within 100 points of number 1. Now there's 6. So people are making one last push. Noblesse Luffy D, 21.04, number 7. Randy Augusta, number 8 with 20.99. Charles Cadevillis, 20.95, and number 10 is Jayaram Prajapati, 20.84. Well done to you all. I think it's number 1 to 5 who are going to possibly win. Number 1 has a 60-point gap, and there are 3 game weeks left, so this double game week is going to do the business. When it comes to the global league table, Eric Ibsen has 23.60 points, and they are number 1, and they have been holding on for a while. Number 2 has 23.36, Luca Otolan. So that is a gap of 24, which isn't bad. With this double game week, a wrong decision, a misstep here, can cost you. Now, Ibsen's team has 60 points this week. Dallo was a keeper with 2. Gabriel has 6. O'Reilly has 1. Stroik has 1. Senesi 14. Tavernier 3. Bruno Fernandes 5. Palmer 0. João Pedro 8. Haaland 14 as captain. And Thiago 6. I can tell you this for free. Palmer is leaving this team. That's all I can tell you for sure. So, this coming game week starts on Saturday. Thankfully, you will be able to make your teams. The bad thing is, it's an early kickoff. However, the early kickoff is definitely worth your time, as it will be Liverpool versus Chelsea. 2 teams that have questionable form, but Chelsea have been trash, proper trash. In the head-to-head, Chelsea have won 1-2, Liverpool have won 3. So, Liverpool are favourites historically. And when it comes to form, Chelsea have won 1 out of the last 5 and lost 4. Liverpool have won 3 and lost 2. they are in much, much better form. Now, Chelsea have lost 6 consecutive Premier League matches for the first time since 1993. And I think this will be number 7. Now with the manager gone, there's no one to blame. Chelsea, I think will be underdogs for this fixture. I believe Szoboszlai, Gakpo, and even like Wirtz would be great choices for this fixture. Of course, if you're choosing Chelsea players, now this manager is making weird rotations, but João Pedro, Enzo, and maybe Cucurella, given the last match and how it went, I'm not sure who will play. I just wouldn't bring in Palmer for this fixture. Next match, we'll see Brighton take on Wolves. Wolves got a draw last time out while Brighton were beaten. This is a great pick-me-up type game for Brighton, and they should be favoured. Wolves have lost 3 of their last 5 and drawn 2, while Brighton have lost 1, won 3, and drawn 1. Now, if you're going to choose a Wolves player, I think you should go with Tolu, Armstrong, and your choice of a Mbeumo or a Gomez. On the other end, Welbeck is finishing strong, trying to make himself a candidate for the World Cup. Hinchelwood has been finishing strong as well, and I would suggest a defender in the form of either Van Hecke or Verbruggen or Gross. The problem with Brighton is they're like Bournemouth. You never know who's going to perform, but somebody will perform. Now, when it comes to their head-to-head, they have drawn 2, and Brighton have won 2, and Wolves have won 1. But given the form and history, Brighton are favoured heavily for this encounter. Moving on to Fulham versus Bournemouth. Now, their head-to-head shows that Bournemouth have won 3, drawn 1, and lost 1 out of their last 5 encounters. So it goes to say that Bournemouth are favourites. Now, Bournemouth is also on a 15-match unbeaten run, and therefore will be favoured to either win or draw this encounter. In their last 5 games, they have drawn twice and won thrice. Fulham have lost twice, drawn once, and won twice. So fairly balanced. I am giving the edge to Bournemouth in this one. And if you're choosing Bournemouth players, Senesi or Hill, and then Krupi Jr., and either Tavernier or Evan Nilsson or Ryan. But yes, you see, just like I said before, you just never know. Because Senesi got 10, Senesi got 14. Ryan scored, Krupi scored, Tavernier didn't score, but he might score in this one. Evan Nilsson might score in this one. On the Fulham end, you really have Wilson, Jimenez, and Emil Smith-Rowe. Those are their best chances for points. Moving on, Sunderland take on Manchester United. Now, the last time they played Manchester United beat them 2-0. And both teams could have been better in their last outings. 3-2 looked good for Manchester United in that they won, but the goals they gave away, not encouraging. If they show up that they'll be able to win this game comfortably, maybe 2-0. Sunderland are at home, but that doesn't mean anything anymore. Now, there are rumors that Manchester United and Brazil have come to an agreement for Cunha to have reduced playing time. If that is true, that may affect his performances. Anyway, in their last 5 matches, Manchester United have won 3, lost 1, drawn 1. Sunderland have lost 2, won 2, drawn 1. If you're choosing a Sunderland player, I would start with Mukiele and then go to maybe Hume and Bobby. For Manchester United, Bruno Fernandes says Cunha. But if you're feeling fancy, Casemiro is the kind of guy who just comes out of nowhere and does something. Manchester City take on Brentford. Looking at the previous 5 games, Man City were kind of lucky to draw with Everton last time out. But before that, they've won 4 and drawn 1. Brentford have drawn 3, lost 1, won 1. Their head-to-head favours Manchester City, with Manchester City having won 4 of their last 5 and drawing 1. Now, that game was so scary because Man City just collapsed in that game. Haaland and Igor Thiago are going pretty much head to head for this golden boot. So that will be interesting. When it comes to Brentford, when choosing their players, defense tends to be their strongest suit, but not in this one, because you tend to have a guy like Lewis Potter, Collins, or Kelleher. But then moving forward, you have Damsgaard, Ouattara, and Thiago. So it's for you to decide if you feel like Brentford have a chance. I think Thiago is your guy. If you think they can get a 0-0 or even sneak a win, then you have to have a Lewis Potter or Collins. On Manchester City's side, it's a double game week. So you just have to go double. And the best bets, honestly, are Haaland, Cherki, and O'Reilly. That's it. And of course, you can choose a menu, but Cherki has been a bit stronger. Now, moving on to the next day, you have Burnley versus Aston Villa. It must be said that Europe is happening. Arsenal are playing tonight. They're playing Atletico Madrid. So as you choose their players, keep that in mind, along with Aston Villa, Crystal Palace, and Nottingham Forest. Burnley take on Aston Villa, and Aston Villa have been so inconsistent. They've lost 3 in a row, and out of the last 5, they've won 2 and lost those 3. Burnley have lost 5 in a row. So both of these teams are bad, and this will be a nightmare game to watch. Last time they played, Aston Villa won 2-1 with Marlon scoring. Marlon is not there anymore. Marlon scored both the goals. Now, Burnley haven't won in 10 games, and Villa haven't lost to Burnley in 5 matches. Their form isn't great, but if you're going to choose players from this team, I would say Watkins should be back in the lineup. I would say McGinn and Rodgers. For Burnley, that's a tough one. First of all, I don't know why you'd want somebody from here, but if you should, I would say Anthony Fleming. Yeah, that's it. I won't choose a third one. And Kyle Walker. The next game is Crystal Palace versus Everton. Crystal Palace have won just one of their last home Premier League matches against Everton. 1. So that is not encouraging for this fixture. But also, Everton in the last 3 matches in a row have conceded in the 90 plus minutes. So it shows that they get fragile towards the end. In the head-to-head, Everton have won 4 out of their last 5 recent encounters, and Crystal Palace have drawn the other. So Everton are favoured in this fixture. Now that is a problem I'm facing because in theory I would love to double up on City and Palace players, but I also don't know who's going to come out unscathed from this European fixture. And then if they are beaten, will they be confident to play? Will that ruin their morale? And then they have a poor record against Everton and they're playing City after that. Those are not 2 encouraging fixtures. You would have preferred if Crystal Palace were playing Wolves and Burnley. But Man City and Everton, teams that they don't do well against, that's tough. Having said that, if you're going to choose Crystal Palace players, you have Mateta, Sarr, and Munoz. If you're choosing an Everton player, now, of course, now Barry scored and Beto has been good. So one of them, and then you have the choice of either Tarkowski or maybe Ghana or Dewsbury Hall. The choice is really yours. Forest take on Newcastle. Both teams were really impressive last time out. Having said that, Forest have been in better form, having won their last 5 games in a row, while Newcastle ended a 4 consecutive loss with their win against Brighton. So it's 4 losses and 1 win. Now, Forest have never beaten Newcastle at the City Ground in the Premier League, but they're also unbeaten in 10 matches for the first time since 1995. In their last few games, Forest have been high scoring because there's a 3-1, a 4-1, a 5-0. Morgan Gibbs-White got a nasty face injury, needed stitches, but probably with a mask he should be fine. Hoping he doesn't have another collision. Now, Newcastle haven't kept a clean sheet in their last 6 matches. And therefore, I wouldn't encourage you to have a defender unless it's Dunburn who scored in the last encounter. So, if you're choosing Newcastle players, I would say Osula, Dunburn, Bruno Guimaraes. If you're choosing Forest players, I would say you have to consider Morgan Gibbs-White, maybe Igor Jesus and Elliot Anderson, or Awoniyi. Reward his form. He might surprise you. West Ham take on Arsenal. And I honestly think West Ham have no chance in this fixture. I just don't know how they beat them. In fact, so much so I'm going to bring in Gyokeres. Now, the last time they played, they were beaten 2-0. In their last 5 encounters, Arsenal have won 3 times and have lost twice. So there's a loss, and they can be beaten, but I guess maybe they would need Arsenal to lose, be demoralized, and then come and then get a draw or a 1-0 lucky win. I just don't believe in West Ham. Arsenal have fire, and they were very impressive against Fulham. They came out ready to score. It looks like they want to get the goal difference up, and so they're leading. And so that's good. It makes the final couple of games of the season to be quite competitive and quite intriguing. Now, if you're choosing Arsenal players, I would say just choose Saka, Gyokeres, and Gabriel. If you're choosing a West Ham player, Bowen. If you're choosing 2, put in Souček and then Somerville. On Monday, Tottenham take on Leeds. Tottenham have won 2 in a row for the first time since August. In the last 5, they've drawn 1, won 2, lost 2. Balanced. Leeds have won 3, won 1, lost 1. Leeds are in better form, but maybe this new manager bounce will do something. So don't put Spurs off. Now, the thing that you must know about Spurs is that they keep adding to the injury list. They have 10 first-team players injured. Honestly, given that, it's not surprising to me that they're in the position that they're in. Now, if you're going to choose Leeds players, honestly, it's Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Okafor, and Stach. On the other end, it is Richarlison, maybe Pedro Porro, and Kolo Muani. The extra game after that will be played on Wednesday, and it will see Manchester City take on Crystal Palace. And now, if it matters, their head-to-head goes a little something like this. Crystal Palace have won 1, drawn 1, and lost 3. They are not in the best of form, having lost 3, drawn 1, lost 1, while Man City have won 4 and drawn 1. Man City will be favoured for this game, but being favoured and actually doing it is a different thing, as we discovered in the Everton game. I still recommend Haaland, Sheki, and O'Reilly, while for Palace, Munoz, Sarr, and Mateta. When you're choosing a captain this week, it has to be a Manchester City player. That's all. Unless you definitively know that in these other fixtures, there's going to be a blowout. Like maybe Watkins will destroy Burnley. Or maybe Szoboszlai will have a hat-trick against Chelsea. Maybe Danny Welbeck will destroy Wolves. I'm trying to see anything else that can be a surprise. I could honestly see Nottingham Forest putting 5 past Newcastle just because Forest are tough. I could also see Arsenal beating West Ham by 4. And if you told me that Gyokeres could have 4 goals, I'd be like, yeah. Or maybe a Saka hat-trick. Yeah, I could see that. But if you don't believe in any of that, you just have to choose a Manchester City player. Or, if you're a bit of a gambler, a Crystal Palace player because they're playing twice. You never know. So, if you believe in Manchester City, you really have 4 options. You have O'Reilly, you have Haaland, you have Sheki, and you have Semenyo, in no particular order. And if you believe Doku has turned the corner, that is your 5th choice. So choose carefully with your Manchester City players. I will be triple captaining one of either, not Semenyo, either Sheki or Haaland. I haven't decided. But I'm a Haaland maximalist, so it's probably going to be Haaland. And with that, we have come to the end of the podcast. Remember, there's an early kickoff on Saturday, so make your team. Outside that, enjoy the Champions League and the rest of European fixtures this week. Bye.